Matt Whitaker joins us, ambassador to NATO. So, Ambassador, thanks so much for coming on today. We saw Ruta at the White House yesterday. Of course, there's just so many moving pieces when it comes to Trump calling Putin, Zelensky at the White House, and now Ruta's presence there as well. Can you tell us behind the scenes what's happening when it comes to efforts to end this war?
Yeah, well, good to be with you. And as you know, I was at the White House as well for that meeting. Very important topics were discussed, but most of it centered around President Trump's continuing desire to end this senseless war. And he talked about how thousands of people, especially soldiers on the front lines, are dying every single week. I think the casualty rates are in the tens of thousands per month. It's a brutal trench war that nobody's winning. And so, President Trump is trying to explore ways to continue the pressure on Vladimir Putin, continue the pressure, quite frankly, on Volodymyr Zelensky, and also look for new ways to continue to press, to bring both sides of the table and to agree to a ceasefire, end the war, and just end the killing. But, he announced also, and I think the most important thing was just these significant sanctions against two Russian oil companies and their subsidiaries who are ultimately funding the Kremlin war machine. And I think the good news is that then at the same time, our European allies in NATO announced another round of sanctions as well. So we're making progress. The war is not over. And as Secretary General Ruta said, here at NATO, we're working very hard to do whatever we can to help President Trump create the conditions to make sure that this war does end.
And it was alongside Secretary Ruta and President Trump making that announcement regarding what you talked about, new sanctions on Russian oil. I want to play that moment for the viewers and then get your response.
These are tremendous sanctions. These are very big. Those are against their two big oil companies. And we hope that they won't be on for long. We hope that the war will be settled. We just answered having to do with the various forms of missiles and everything else that we're looking at. But we don't think that's going to be necessary.
And this is a pivotal moment. I just kind of wanted to speak to your knowledge in working with President Trump for a number of years in multiple roles, Ambassador. But to this point where President Trump sees, look, these conversations on the phone, they're not working. They're pleasant conversations, but at the end of the day, there are no results. And then here he comes with sanctions on these oil companies. Talk to us about what you're seeing unfold, and maybe do you have confidence that this could have a lasting impact?
Yeah, well, it's very clear to me that, especially on the Russian side, that they want to talk, but they don't want to negotiate. And President Trump, who wrote the book Art of the Deal, who is the master negotiator, deal maker, and really a peacemaker. He's made 8 peace deals in his second term here as President of the United States. But President Trump sees what Vladimir Putin and the Russians do is they talk to him on the phone. He thinks they have a great conversation. He reports that out. And then that night, Vladimir Putin then attacks with significant force civilians, especially overnight in Ukraine. And so I think President Trump he holds all the cards. And at the end of the day, he's going to play those cards as he sees appropriate to continue to create the circumstances to keep Vladimir Putin at the table, to get him to negotiate, to resolve this war, because the killing has to stop. And President Trump, I think, is just really frustrated, to be quite frank with you, that Vladimir Putin won't end this war. He's not making any strategic gains. He continues to enable a slaughter that's happening on the front line with nothing to really show for it. In the last year since Christmas of last year, so in the last 10 months, Russia has taken about the territory of the size of the city of Jacksonville. Not significant gains, not major territory, and the killing just continues. Thousands of soldiers every single week are dying, and it needs to end.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.